Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to share with you guys about manifesting my dream home, how this beautiful home came to be my live reality. I am literally waking up every morning, pinching myself, going, wow, like this is where I get to live. And I want to share how this actually came into my life so that you can hopefully apply some of these different tricks, ideas, and just to be inspired about how you could potentially expand into greater realities in your own life, or greater homes, greater levels of wealth, greater whatever you want to create. You really can have it. It just requires you to stretch beyond your current capacity, and that is essentially what this journey has taught me. And yeah, I'm really excited to share with you guys some things that came up throughout this process and just give you a little insight into how this actually came to be. And so, to rewind time, before I came back to Bali, I had been traveling for 7 weeks and had a beautiful time, but by the end of that trip I was just craving home. I was like, okay, I am ready to not be living out of a suitcase. I need a base, I need routine, I need a space that's not only going to be a great landing for me, that's something that's going to be better than where I had currently been living, because I had been living in and out of guest houses where I was previously. It was a nice studio apartment, but it also wasn't expansive. And I think leaving my current life and going traveling, you get that kind of perspective shift. And so coming back, I had this vision of a beautiful home where I could have my office, I could create content like this, and to just feel expanded creatively, financially, like inspired by my space. I think it's important to me to have a space that really feels not only peaceful and beautiful, but just like a sanctuary. And that was kind of part of the little list I was writing to the universe about what I wanted this space to be. And I'm just so in awe of how it all came together. Even with details like these little arches in the back here, they were a part of my initial manifestation. I had written, I would love kind of a nice background for my videos, or a nice background for the room that I do my calls and meetings in. And it came to be it's kind of cool how all of this came to fruition, like such little details. And I think when it comes to calling in something new, writing a list and being specific is important. It's also important to be open to how that might show up, and being a bit more fluid to seeing if something could be even better than what you might have envisioned. Something that I had on my list was I wanted expansive views, and I had this idea that I wanted, lush jungle or like rice paddies, kind of like where I used to live. I had a nice window, and it's interesting because this place does not have that, and yet it is so expansive energetically. That feeling of expansion is like no other place I've ever lived. And yet I don't have these expansive views, but I have this kind of beautifully contained little sanctuary where it's very private. And yeah, I do feel expanded. And that was kind of the key of this whole journey, was, rising into a greater version of myself, a greater home, a greater existence. And everyone deserves to have that. Everyone deserves to experience more of their own greatness, more of the beauty and magic that is available to them. And it does come through a willingness to stretch yourself and to, trudge a bit through your fear and your doubt to actually get to that greater reality, or that greater manifestation of whatever it is that you're trying to call in. Because practicality, sensibility, what makes sense doesn't get you those great experiences in life. It gets you predictability. It gets you things that might be good, but what if there's something greater? And so that was something that was a part of this journey for me too. There were times where I was really tested to not settle, because I had this initial vision, right? And the feeling behind it was so strong. It was just like this excitement and this joy of having a proper base and to be settled, to have it decorated the way I want, have all the space and you know, having my own private pool, having my own office studio, all of these things. And I went to so many inspections that were not it. You know, they were close. There were some nice places I went to, but as much as they kind of ticked the boxes logically, there wasn't that feeling of when I walked into this space, like, yes, I could live here. I could see myself living here. Yes, I want to live here. This is it. It was more like, oh, it's okay. I could try to make it fit. There was like a uncertainty and kind of like a, what's the word? There was no energy behind it, but logically it made sense. You know, logically I should have just taken that because I was so hungry for a base. You know, living out of a suitcase, if you've done it, I'm sure you know, at a certain point it gets to be quite tiring. And yeah, that was something that, even though I was really wanting, what I'm trying to say is holding out for the thing that you really want and having patience rather than just settling for something because it seems easier, or you're tested and you think, oh, maybe I can't have what I want. So anyway, rewind. When I came back to Bali, I think this is a key piece in also calling this place in. I could feel this frequency, this energy of this new space. And I thought, when I get back there, I want to be held by the same kind of energy that I want to actually call in. So when I was booking my Airbnbs, I was booking places that felt expansive, that were, you know, a fair bit more expensive than what I would typically pay to spend a night. But I felt it was important to do that because it was kind of setting the tone for actually calling in this particular place that I'm in now. And as much as these places were beautiful, they didn't feel like home. And I was kind of fighting between, you know, being grateful for the place that I was staying and also like just really desiring to be home. And anyway, so I stayed in this initial Airbnb for 2 weeks or 10 days. And then it was time to move. And I thought, well, I don't want to go, and I didn't know how long it was going to take me to find a house. So I ended up finding a nice place that was just as nice, if not more nice than where I was. And it was a bit more expensive, but I thought, you know, I don't want to go for somewhere less. I want to keep this nice feeling, and I'm happy to invest in a beautiful space. And so I saw this Airbnb, and I thought, I'll book it for 5 nights, and hopefully by then I will have found where I'm actually going to be living. And so I get to this place and I walk in the door. They haven't even shown me all the rooms yet. And I said, do you have any other apartments for long-term rental? It was just this instant, like, I loved it. And I was like, because it's a complex, there's many other villas in where I'm living. And they said, oh, no, sorry, we don't have that. And I thought, okay, well, I don't believe you, so I'm going to go looking and ask some more people. And I got in touch with one of the organizers or receptionist or someone who was connected to the property. And I said, hey, do you have any long-term villas available? I'm staying in this room, but I'd love to stay here long-term. And she came back to me with, yes, we have an owner place for rent, and the price was just ridiculous. It was like 4 times my budget. Or no, maybe not that much, but it was a bit ridiculous. And I thought, well, that's not going to work for me. Never mind. I'll look somewhere else. So I kind of accepted, you know, I was staying in this beautiful Airbnb, and I was starting to really fall in love with it the more days that I spent there. I thought, oh, it would be so perfect. You know, it's got a room like this where I could have my studio, my office set up. It's got the nice bedroom that I wanted, like the modern style. Yeah, it was really ticking all my boxes, and I was like, oh, but Briley, don't fall in love with it because it's not available. Like it's not, you know, within your price range. So I was kind of like having to pretend I wasn't so in love with where I was staying, and facing the kind of feeling of like, oh, I'm going to have to go somewhere that's, you know, potentially not as nice. In saying that, there was a part of me that knew that wherever I was going to end up, it was going to have a similar feeling of, you know, abundance, of peace, of beauty, of luxury. And as much as I was starting to feel doubtful because I'd been going to so many inspections, I'd been going to all these places that were just, sort of it, but not really. Somewhere along the way, I did also have a moment where I realized the budget that I was trying to call in this new place from was probably a bit too small to match what I was trying to create or call in. And so I actually ended up doubling my budget to a specific number. And I thought, okay, this number is double what I was paying previously. Because there's this thing, right? When we're expanding financially, there is the part of us that wants to be smart, to save, to think logically. Well, I don't need XYZ. I can just pay this and be comfortable and, save a bunch. But then there's the other part that's like, well, no, my heart really desires this. And it's like, well, what's being called forward of me to match that? And anyway, long story short, I realized I needed to expand my willingness to invest in myself, because also there is that feeling of like when you are, what did I say the other day? It's like who do you become through the investments that you make? And, if you're someone, which I've been myself, trying to save and being more practical about things. And if you think about that energy, it's actually very contracted. It's very small. It's scarcity, it's kind of like hunting to find the good deal. That's not to say that you can't also be smart and practical like that. But I think there is this expansion that needs to happen, with conscious awareness of not going over the top. It's kind of like a middle ground piece. And that's kind of where I found myself, and just looking at my beliefs around money and what I felt was, what's the word? Feasible for what I was trying to call in. And anyway, I felt this number and I thought, okay, well, it's double what I had been paying, but I think it's still within my realm of, I wouldn't say comfort, because it's definitely more than what I was comfortable to pay, but it again, it had that expansive feeling. It had that feeling of stretching for something greater. And long story short, this place was that exact number. So I was staying in this other villa in this same complex, and it was the night before I had to leave, and this place popped up that looked exactly like the place I was staying in, literally just over here behind this wall. And I thought, oh my God, that is this complex. And I looked through the photos and I think the post had been up maybe half an hour or an hour. And I was the first to message, and I said, hey, look, I'm already staying here. Can I come see the place in the morning? This was the night prior at 9 or 10 p.m. The next morning came and I got actually to choose between two places, which was such a gift, having the choice. And I came to this particular spot, and instantly I walked in the door. I was like, yes, 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 soul, yes, this is the one. And I just couldn't believe how beautifully and magically that had all been orchestrated. The fact that I had seen this place on Airbnb, felt called towards it. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I did question it. I thought, it's a bit more expensive. Should I do it? Should I go somewhere more budget friendly, just because I didn't really know how long I was going to be waiting before I would find the place. And then I ended up literally moving next door in the same complex. So there is something to be said there about leaning in and, expanding your trust. And also, if you are calling in something that's greater than where you had been previously, there is a financial element to that too, because money is, it's the driver of this world, and it's part of it, whether we like it or not. And the more that we can get comfortable with investing in ourselves in a way that lights up our soul, not in a silly way where you're just blowing money on things that don't serve you or don't support you in any way. But when you're actually investing from a place of love for yourself in a way that makes you feel like you really value yourself and like you deserve it, like treating yourself how you deserve, rather than paying for something just that's basic and would be fine. There is something that happens through that process in willing to treat yourself that actually allows for more magic and beauty and abundance to come into your life. And it's because you are you're spending from that energy of expansion, rather than spending from contraction, which again is more that scarcity, small kind of energy, which tends to keep us stuck in realities that aren't as great or aren't as expansive as what's available for us. So I also want to talk about the doubt and the fears and what would you say, the logic that came up throughout this process, because there was a lot of that surfaced. Am I being too silly? Like, is this too delusional? Should I start to look for something that feels more realistic? And all of this stuff came up, and I did feel at certain points a little bit deflated, a little bit impatient, definitely. But I didn't let those feelings stop me from holding that initial vision that I felt of what I was calling in, because I was so adamant that was going to be a reality for me. I knew the feeling, I knew the frequency. Again, I knew there was like specific details as well. And I thought, there is so much emotional charge behind this desire, so much positive, vibrant energy behind this. Like, it literally lights up my whole heart and soul when I think about that. It has to be a reality. And I would love for you to take that away with you, because whenever you receive a certain vision or an idea or something in your life you really desire to create or experience, and you have that emotional charge behind it, it's because it literally already exists as a potential. It already exists out there in some future timeline. It's just waiting for you to match it vibrationally so that it can become a reality. And to explain this a little bit deeper, there is really no such thing as time. Like, everything actually is happening, everything everywhere all at once. And I know that doesn't make sense to our brain and our ego because we run on linear time, but from the soul level, everything is happening right now. So that emotional charge that you have around a desire and that, excitement, that joy, that love, whatever it is that you feel around that thing, it's because there is a part of you already living it, already existing in that reality. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the emotional weight behind it. Like, there wouldn't be that excitement and that buzz behind it, because it wouldn't be meant for you otherwise. And this is something to keep in mind when you are manifesting or calling in something into your life. I think I said it before, but you really want to make sure it is coming from your heart and it isn't coming from your head, or your, wanting to create something just because there is less energy behind that in terms of it being something that is going to expand you and support you, from a soul level. You can have it, you can create that if you want, but is it going to fulfill you? Probably not. And if there have been things in your life that you've tried to manifest and they haven't come to fruition yet, don't be discouraged. It might just be that there is a delay on those particular things, which in the future will make sense, but for right now, it might just be that certain things are catching up, or there are other factors in the mix. Or, it's not for your highest good. Sometimes we're blocked from certain things coming into our life because it may not support us in the ways that we think it would. And again, I also want to mention that it's not actually just you manifesting. Like, you are definitely a big part of, you are definitely a key part of bringing a creation into fruition, but you have so much support from the higher realms, from guides, angels, beautiful beings who want to support you, who want to see you live your dreams, who want to bless your life with magic. And at the same time, there is a part, or there is a key piece in you actually being available to that, being open to receive, being on that same energetic playing field as the desire that you are wanting to call in. And another thing with this process is heart-led or soul-led desires that come up, not all the time, but a lot of the time, it's not actually about the end manifestation. It's who we become through calling that into our lives. It's what we let go of in the process. It's who we emerge as and how we refine ourselves and evolve through that manifestation. And that is truly, the only manifestation game I want to play, because I think there are other ways to, work with the laws of the universe, but this way is always for the greatest benefit of yourself, of what you're here for, what is of highest good to yourself and of all. So yeah, be willing to acknowledge and address the potential blockages, hindrances, or lower self patterns that might be blocking you from whatever it is that you are trying to call in. Because this is where, there is only so much that the universe can do to support us. Like, we have to be willing to support ourselves, be humble and be willing to look at, okay, what are the ways I might be unconsciously sabotaging this? What are the ways that I may be blocking this energetically? So we have to be aware of what's happening inside and be particularly mindful about the emotions that we're emitting on certain things. And like I said, there were times where I was in doubt. I was maybe in this feeling of, I didn't think I was in scarcity. I was in this kind of like, oh, maybe I should save initially. And then I realized, no, like, this divine place that I want to live in is definitely going to require me to step up my capacity to spend, and investing from that place is, I believe, what actually allowed me to step into this reality. If I had been playing it safe and, I just want to spend this much because then I can save the rest and it makes more logical sense to do that, then I probably would have ended up in a place that wasn't as aligned or as beautiful or as exciting as the one that I did end up in. And it is through the stretching and through pushing through those doubts and fears and through that relentless willingness to not settle, to not accept less than what is available for you, as much as you'll be challenged, again, like feeling impatient, just hungry for that thing. If you can hold out for it, it gets really good. And you'll be surprised in ways that just make you remember how magical life truly is. And I think sometimes we can forget this. We can fall into, routine. We can be so caught up in our heads. Even when it comes to money and finance, we can be so fixated on saving and, being smart and all these things. And I'm not saying that's not important. I'm not saying be silly and carefree and just spend all your money on things. It's kind of like a balancing act, and being aware of where you are living in scarcity and smallness and fear versus where you are living at the edge of your comfort zone, where you are expanding, where you are open to the great possibilities that are available for you. And again, that is going to bring up your smallness. It's going to bring up that fear. It's going to bring up that doubt. And that is a good thing, because if you were to just expand and none of that would come up, then what would be the fun in that game, or in calling whatever thing it is in? There would be no kind of contrast to make you appreciate what it is you're actually doing, or what game you're playing, so to speak. So yeah, you can apply that to so many different things in your life as well. But in any area, if there is expansion, if there is potential of something greater or more vibrant, alive, exciting, it's going to bring up the opposite of that. And you have to not allow that to derail you, because it can be very convincing that you should listen to that and that you shouldn't dream so big and that you should just, come back down here in your little safe bubble. But that is not where magic exists. It exists beyond the unknown, in the territory of, beyond your fear. You have to rise beyond your fear to actually call in those things. There's a quote or a song, some preacher guy talking about God put the best things in life on the other side of fear. And I wholeheartedly believe that. It's like, where there are big fears or big walls in your life, you want to go there. You don't want to shy away from that. You want to actually run towards it, because on the other side is something amazing and beautiful and exciting in your life. So don't be someone who lets for fear and smallness keep you in this little safe, comfortable bubble, because when we do that, on one hand, we do feel safe, we do feel comfortable, we never feel challenged, we never feel tested, because we are just playing it safe and easy. However, what is the cost of that? Your fulfillment, the heights of joy that are available for you, great blessings and gifts that are available for you, the best things in life require you to be brave, to run towards fear, to dive into the unknown, to dream big and have a vision for your life that scares you or makes you feel intimidated. That is the point. You are so great. We all have this divinity within us, this potential for greatness. And yet we live in a world that constantly tries to make us forget that, to believe the opposite, or to live in a small confined place because that's just what's normal, or that's just what it is, whatever the story is. And I want to be someone who encourages people to liberate themselves from that lie and to actually go after their wildest dreams, no matter where they've been, no matter what challenges have existed in their life beforehand. You are worthy and capable of creating anything, but you have to be willing to go through the discomfort to actually rise into that person who can create those things. It makes me think about when I was working my 9-to-5 as a designer years ago, and I was drinking, partying all the time in this really toxic relationship, and I was just living as a very low version of myself, and yet I had this dream at my desk, and I envisioned myself working remotely, living in a tropical place, living on my own terms, getting to travel, take my laptop, work anywhere. And at the time, that felt like such a distant dream. It felt impossible. It felt like, well, that's a nice dream, but how the hell do I get there? How do I even... It just didn't feel within my reach. And I remember at that time, something really critical shifted. Not only did I start to actually monitor my internal world a bit more, I started to care. Abraham Hicks said in a podcast, care more about the way you feel, and something in my brain just clicked, and I was like, oh my God, I probably should care more about the way that I feel. I should care about, what energy I am cultivating and emitting on the daily basis, because at that time I was very reactive. I was very angry and sad, and I was constantly living for the weekends. I did not like my life. I did not like myself. I did not like the actions that I was taking and that I felt locked into. And it was this kind of self-sabotage merry-go-round, hell-like existence, which eventually I broke and managed to climb out of this hole that I dug for myself. And I started listening to Abraham Hicks about law of attraction, and just literally raising my frequency, raising my capacity to think greater. And I remember being at my desk, like hating my life, not like super miserable doing the work that I was doing, but listening to this woman talking about, you know, miracles and manifestation and all these beautiful things. And it really gave me I don't know what it is, but something in my brain opened up to believe delusionally that me, this, you know, how old was I? 22-year-old sad little woman who was working in her 9 to 5, you know, hooked on alcohol, living for the weekends, that she could somehow go and create a life of her dreams and work with amazing souls all around the world and have the freedom to be her own boss, etc., etc. But something in me could feel the excitement of that, you know, possibility / reality. And it made me aware of what I needed to let go of in order to actually match that. And there was so much work that needed to be done. Like, I needed to do a lot of work on myself and let go of a lot of things if I was ever going to have a chance of actually calling in this reality, which felt like it was like, you know, up here somewhere. But I could feel the energy of it. I could feel the excitement, and I lent into that. And anyway, long story short, after, you know, years of inner work and, you know, going on this journey, aligning with my higher self, creating this business and just allowing that to flourish and grow over the years, it has taught me a lot. And it has, you know, obviously not been something that happened overnight, but it's just so amazing how magical this life truly is. And I am so glad that I did not let fear and doubt and shame and even, you know, my attachment to the certain things in my life that were literally like what I would imagine like a weight on my leg. I had all of these things that were like weighing me down and draining my soul. And I'm so glad that I let those things go, that I put the time in to actually work on myself, to heal, to, you know, cleanse my body mentally, physically, spiritually, just to get into alignment and to be clear-headed about what I actually wanted, what was in alignment with my soul, what my life could be, rather than this reality that I used to be in, which felt like, it was just like floating without a cause, you know, having no direction, having no goal, not really having any passion for what I was doing, just feeling lost. And I know that a lot of people experience this, and just know that when you are connected to your soul, when you have that vision, you have, like, there are beings all the time giving us little hits of intuition, little blips of encouragement, trying to get us to snap online, to wake up to ourselves and our reality, and to choose differently, to make different choices, to align with greater aspects of who we are, and to cultivate a connection with that, so that, you know, our higher self, our soul, can actually be living in the body rather than like up here somewhere, just like floating outside of the body. And people might be, what's the word? It can be intimidating to lean into that, because again, that small part of us freaks out. It doesn't want to do the work. It doesn't want to let go of its alcohol and its addictions and all of the things that keep it, you know, stuck but comfortable in this dusty reality, which is, you know, maybe for many the norm. You know, and it's just because something is normalized doesn't mean that we should accept it. I think that was a big piece, and something that had to shift in my mind at that time was, you know, daring to believe in something greater. I looked around at, you know, the people in my office who had been working in the industry for many, many more years than I had, and I thought, is this all there is? I remember just thinking, like, how have these people lived all of these years in this job? I mean, maybe they loved what they were doing. It just wasn't for me. And at the time, it kind of felt like there was no other way. Like, that's just what it is. But this is what I would describe as like a matrix plugin. It's a limiting belief that a lot of people get programmed with, like I was, where they just believe, well, that's just how things are. Like, there is no other way. And you kind of view reality from this very limited gray mentality where that's just what it is. But something in my consciousness did shift thanks to the input. I was listening, as I said, Abraham Hicks and a couple of other podcasts that were very transformative for me at that time. And I'm grateful for those people, because sometimes you just hear something that someone says and it kind of ignites something in you. It awakens or activates a sleeping part of your soul or of yourself, and it just spurs you into action. And when you have those sparks, like, pay attention to that. Again, like when you have the spark of a desire for a particular thing to manifest, like this house, for example, that is like critical in a GPS communicating with you. It's your soul guiding you. It is like a little breadcrumb. So following those sparks, like, we are literally electrical vibrational beings. And when you feel that electricity pulse in your body of, you know, something that activates joy or excitement, or wouldn't that be cool, like that playful inner child dreamer energy, like that is your God-given creator ability being kind of sparked in that moment. And you want to be leading into that as much as you can, and just not letting the other part of you try to keep you back from what you know is coming for you. And really trusting, really trusting in those visions, in those pings, in those sparks. That light literally will guide your way. And just also prioritizing that, like making time to harness and cultivate your spiritual connection, especially when there's so many things trying to distract you, to derail you, to make you think that other things are more important. There is no greater, more valuable asset than your own connection to your soul / God. And I know that this world doesn't really make it it's obvious. What's the word? It's intentionally made for us to pretend that we don't care about that, and to go the other way, which is into the world of, you know, party, drink away the sorrows, and just ignore what our soul is calling us towards. And I did that. And it literally led me to hell. Dug myself out of that, and now exist in a reality which most of the time feels like heaven on earth. It feels like this magical reality. I get to work with incredible humans from all over the world, which literally just feel like my friends. And every day feels like fun. It's like I wake up with this inspire and this joy to create, to serve, to, you know, just play. And it really gets to be that good. I know that some people might think, oh, that sound nice, but it's like, well, you can create that for yourself. That's actually the original divine template, or like that is how things are supposed to be. We are supposed to exist here in this world or another. We're supposed to follow the things that bring us joy. We're supposed to live from that joy and act on that joy, and, you know, create from a place of fun and excitement and work that feels like play. I don't know why I did that. But it does get to be that good. And if anything, I just want to leave this podcast on the note for you to go forward believing that amazing things can happen to you and will happen to you if you continue to, you know, unpick the things within that might be pushing away great things from coming into your life. And if you are, you know, on that path of calling in something amazing, just keep going. Like, keep relentlessly going after whatever it is that you feel that you are here for, or that is meant for you, and trust in that process. Trust in the whole, journey that is unfolding, without being overly attached to the outcome, mind you, because like I said earlier, it's not even about the end manifestation or the end goal. It's actually who you become in the process, which is the most rewarding thing. And that's where you gain wisdom, you gain so much, which is actually more valuable than any monetary thing. It's the journey of the soul, the journey of coming into yourself, rising beyond your limitations, your challenges, your wounds, all of the things that we do agree to take on before we come here, because they just make the game interesting. If you came here with no weight to carry, no challenge to overcome, no opposing force within you to your own greatness, then why would we be here? What would be the fun in playing a game that we know we're going to win? I mean, we are, like, the funny thing is you can, but there is that variable of, well, you could live a whole life not living in alignment with your potential if you want. You could live a whole life playing it safe and not daring to dream, and just, it's free will. So just have more fun, lean into what lights you up, and continue to follow those sparks, because it will always lead you to a brighter, more magical existence than when you are listening to your mind and what makes sense, what's logical, and all of that stuff. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more with you all in the next episode.